The front door slammed shut so forcefully against the wall that the whole hallway shook. The picture frames shook as if in outrage at the intrusion, and before I could even put my coffee down, a woman of about 50 burst into my kitchen like a hurricane in a polyester blazer. Her face contorted with self-righteous indignation, and she wielded a clipboard as if it were a weapon of divine wrath. The sunbeam from my window illuminated the shiny HOA President pin on her jacket, reflecting off it like a badge she didn't earn. "This is your third offense this month," she screamed, her voice piercing the calm like a siren. "Your lawn is half an inch too long. Your trash cans were out for 37 minutes after collection. And whatever you're calling a mailbox, it's an eyesore to the whole community." I stood stock still at the threshold of the living room, coffee mug poised halfway to my mouth, frozen as this intruder strode through my house as if she owned property here. She swept her manicured hand across my countertop, inspecting for dust, and then, good Lord help me, she opened my refrigerator door. Her nose scrunched up like she'd just been smelling sulfur. "Excuse me." I got out, tried to inject calm into my voice when every thread of blood was racing with disbelief. "You have to leave. Now." She spun around in the style of someone who'd rehearsed this scene in front of the mirror. Her bleached blonde hair flew over her shoulder like a curtain, and she unfolded her clipboard with fanfare. "I am Karen Thompson, president of the Willowbrook HOA," she announced with pride. "And I have every right to investigate this property for compliance." When she reached for my phone on the counter, most likely to take pictures of non-existent infractions, I stepped forward reflexively. The years of police training came on. My voice fell to the level of calm authority that once defused hostage standoffs. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "you just committed a felony." 3 weeks prior, I'd relocated to this so-called tranquil suburban enclave with visions of retiring from Bedlam. I'm Detective James Morrison, 2 decades with the force, a pile of commendations, and all I desired now were quiet Saturdays, a grill on the porch, and perhaps some tranquility from the wail of sirens. But Karen Thompson had other ideas. She homed in on me the moment I came home like a heat-seeking missile. The mailbox was 2 inches short of where it ought to have been. The driveway contained an infinitesimal oil spot that allegedly broke subsection 12(4) of the HOA code. She even went so far as to say that my American flag wasn't the proper shade of blue. I was polite at first. I nodded through her lectures on community standards, counting to 10 in my head. The neighbors had warned me in whispers. "That's just Karen," they'd tell me with the jaded resignation of people who'd already lost the battle. "She's been HOA president for 5 years. Thinks she's in charge of a military base." I figure I could manage one hypervigilant neighbor. I'd worked with far worse in my job, but all that changed after the barbecue. It was a subdued Saturday, friends, burgers, old rock, charcoal scent, nothing crazy. We were finished by 8 hours before the HOA noise curfew. But at 6:30 on the nose, Karen appeared, uninvited, tape measure in hand like some form of building inspector from the underworld. 4.7 feet, she declared triumphantly, measuring how close my grill was to the property line. HOA rules explicitly say 5 feet minimum. Then the game started. Anonymous typed notes in nasty all caps began to show up on my doorstep every day. "Your hedges are asymmetrical. Your doormat is not regulation brown. Your car was parked facing the wrong direction for 14 minutes. And the photos. She'd prowl around at night, taking pictures over my fence. I caught the flash going off. At 2 one morning. Another time, I saw her standing on a stepladder, looking into my garage like a raccoon in pearls. When I caught her, she said she was photographing architectural inconsistencies. And then came the rumors. Somehow, neighbors I'd never met were talking about me. Turns out Karen had made a secret Facebook group specifically to analyze every square inch of my property. She even took pictures and photoshopped them to make my lawn appear dead. That afternoon, I spent some time in the backyard repairing a couple of twisted fence boards. Nothing elaborate, just peaceful work that allowed me to clear my head. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, playing classic rock softly, not even aware that my front door hadn't closed after I'd exited. Karen seized the opportunity. When I was gone, she slipped inside, silent, intentional, with the smug arrogance of someone who felt that rules didn't apply to them. This wasn't my house in her eyes. It was a set for her next power trip. 45 minutes since I'd left, forehead sweating and palms dusting with sawdust, I returned inside and stood still. Karen Thompson was in my dining room like a thief caught in the act. My mail was out on the table, bills, personal correspondence, even my mother's birthday card, stacked in tidy little piles. She was taking pictures of them with her phone. My drawers were open, my notebook riffled through, my calendar open. "What are you doing exactly?" I asked, my voice low to that cold tone I reserved for interrogation rooms. She stood up straight, chest pushed out, holding onto her clipboard as if it were a shield. "I'm performing a lawful HOA inspection," she barked. "You've been reported for numerous violations, and I have the right to investigate." "No," I replied softly, taking out my phone and hitting record. "You don't have any right to come into my house. That is breaking and entering. That's trespassing. And on what you just took a picture of could be identity theft." Karen emitted a harsh, dry laugh. "Don't be absurd. The HOA charter grants me complete inspection authority," she stated icily, eyes squinting. "It's completely legal." I couldn't help but smile quietly, just enough to make her flinch. "Really? Then demonstrate," I said, crossing my arms. "Demonstrate where exactly in that teeny book of yours it indicates you can gain entry into someone's private home against their will. Go ahead, wait for it." Her face turned pink, then red, as she shuffled through her pile of papers, fanning through pages like a conjurer searching for a lost card. "It's assumed," she stuttered. "How am I supposed to make them comply otherwise if I can't see in?" "Like any ordinary human being," I replied calmly. "From a sidewalk." I then pulled out my wallet. "Let me demonstrate something, Karen." The minute I flipped my badge open, her whole face shattered like glass. The color of her face washed out so fast it was like seeing a curtain fall. Her lips parted, but nothing emerged. The badge shone in the light. Detective James Morrison, City Police Department, bold and unambiguous. "You're a policeman," she breathed, her tone suddenly paper-thin. 20 years on the force," I replied, my voice even. And then I gestured toward the corner of the living room. "And that camera there? It's been rolling since the moment you burst in. And the one beside the front door spotted you entering without invitation." Her clipboard fell from her hands and hit the floor with a hollow thud. The struggle was drained from her eyes, replaced by desperation. "This is a mistake," she stuttered. "I knocked. I thought you invited me to come in from the backyard." I raised an eyebrow. "Using my noise-canceling headphones? That's some great hearing, Karen." I drew out my work phone and began dialing. Her eyes went wide as the realization hit her like a cold rain. "I'm calling this in," I stated calmly. "You can tell the responding officers about it." "Wait," she exclaimed, stepping forward, then froze when I held up a hand. "We can resolve this. I'll leave immediately. We can just pretend it never occurred." "Not the way crime is done," I replied softly. "You don't get to expunge a felony because you're sorry afterwards." I held the phone to my ear. "Dispatch, Detective Morrison, badge 4729. Units to my house for a burglary in progress. Suspect remains on the scene." Her knees buckled. She fell into a dinner chair, the same one she'd been leaning against when intruding on my privacy moments before. Tears formed in her eyes, streaming through the makeup she'd likely applied that morning in front of her bathroom mirror, rehearsing assertiveness. "Please," she whispered. "I have a reputation. I own a real estate agency. This will destroy me. You might have considered that before you broke into the house of a police officer," I told her, voice firm. "Or anyone's house. My badge doesn't escalate it. It means I know precisely what kind of charges you're going to face." Outside, the howl of sirens was gathering, the sound of responsibility hurtling down neighborhood streets. She heard also. Desperation glimmered in her eyes like a flicker of a dying fire. "I'll resign from the HOA," she pleaded. "I'll sanction all your infractions. I'll even install your new fence for you." "You're finally beginning to understand," I said as the red and blue flashing lights etched my front windows. This isn't a HOA political game anymore. This is about criminal activity. Two police officers in uniform walked into my open front doorway. I gave them a quick summary and showed them the security footage. Their expressions moved from professionalism to shock as they saw her digging through my drawers and mail like a burglar. Officer Martinez glared at her. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to stand up and put your hands behind your back. You can't arrest me," she screamed, clambering to her feet. "I'm the HOA president. I know the mayor. My husband's a lawyer." "None of that is relevant at the moment," Martinez replied calmly, clicking open the handcuffs with a metallic snap. "You are being arrested for criminal trespass and illegal entry." The cuffs clicked into place with a sharp sound that rang through the room like a gavel. Her face contorted between anger and incredulity as Martinez recited her rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "This is absurd," she sneered. "It's his word against mine." "As it happens," I interrupted, waving my phone in the air, "it's your actions against high-definition video proof." As they escorted her to the door, she turned to scowl at me, her voice dripping with venom. "You'll regret this. I'll sue you for false arrest. I'll make your life hell. The whole HOA will turn on you." I smiled weakly. "Can't wait." By this point, the whole neighborhood had spilled out onto their porches, attracted by the sirens and the drama. Those who'd suffered beneath her snarling, petty dictatorship stood watching with awestruck eyes and silent smugness. Mrs. Chun from next door, 2 doors down, initiated a slow, measured clap. Bob on the corner opposite brought his beer up in salute. And as the cruiser pulled away, Karen's muffled yelling receded into the sound of the engine. My neighbor next door shook his head, smiling. About damn time somebody stood up to her. The district attorney didn't dawdle. The video, combined with testimony from my neighbors who'd caught her entering my home, sealed the deal. She was convicted of criminal trespass, illegal entry, and attempted identity theft for snapping pictures of my personal documents. The penalty for each? 3 years in prison and $25,000 in fines. Her attorney husband attempted to negotiate, but the prosecutor wasn't going to take a shortcut with a woman who'd threatened an entire community. 2 months down the line, Karen Thompson, formerly untouchable president of the Willowbrook HOA, stood before a judge. Her voice, once shrill with power, was now a mere whisper as the judge read out the verdict. 1 year probation, $5,000 in fines, 200 hours of community service. But what happened in court was nothing to what followed. The HOA board scheduled an emergency meeting the following day. Unanimous vote. Officially stripped of her throne. She sat at the back of the room, cheeks streaked with tears, hearing neighbor after neighbor come forward to testify, years of intimidation, tape measures, and humiliation. Her real estate company dropped her within a week, saying there was damage to company reputation. And then there was the headline splashed across the front page of the local newspaper. HOA President arrested for breaking into officer's residence. Her mugshot summed it up. Poof! Gone was the tidy queen of suburban authority. In her place sat a woman who finally comprehended that she wasn't beyond the law. When the judge uttered her final words, her shoulders trembled, her clipboard crown shattered once and for all. The woman who used to reign over a block with a tape measure and a scowl now sat helpless, having to confront the one thing she'd ever dreaded, losing control. In every block, there's always that one person who goes too far. But in this block, justice always comes knocking. This is Neighbor Wars HQ, where karma knocks the loudest.